Hello. I think I lost my tag on here with the description of what this is, but I'm not sure how to add it. We'll just leave it. So welcome to this week's weekly knit chit chat. This is where we just hang out and knit and chat about life and knitting and all of the things. So if you're not familiar with me, this is your first time catching me, I am Jessica, the knitting designer and mentor behind Snickerdoodle Knits. So I design knitting patterns that are fun to knit, engaging to knit, easy to wear, and tell the stories of living. And then I help provide resources and community for knit and crochet pattern designers. So last year I started the Design Circle, which is a community that connects designers with community and resources, and it's been a lot of fun. So that is who I am. And what are you working on? Welcome. Feel free to share in the chat. What have you been knitting on? I've been mostly working on my In a Mood shawl pattern, so I don't think it's been a while since we've chatted. The last knit chit chat was 3 weeks ago, I think, and I don't remember if this was done yet. Because last week I was out of town. The week before that I had a really terrible headache. I think it was all neck alignment stuff. But so In a Mood is a shawl pattern. Well, this one's a shawl, where you get to choose how long the design is, how long you knit. You get to choose which weight of yarn you use. So I have like stitch gauge recommendations for fingering, DK, worsted, bulky, and then you get to choose which stitches you actually use and where they go and all of that. So it has 4 stitch motifs: garter, this is what I'm calling simple lace, drop stitch, and then here it's an inside out garter rib. So garter rib is actually this side, but with the other stitches I liked this side better. So those are the 4 stitches inside of the pattern. So this was my first sample that I made before I opened test knitting, and it's worsted weight, and just played around with the stitches. And then I had started a fingering weight version because I still didn't have the actual yarn that I was designing with, or what need the design sample in, which is DK weight. So I had started this fingering weight version, which is very different. A lot of drop stitches, and then I was in the lace, and then I got the actual yarn for the design, which is DK weight. And of course I love DK weight. It's a 3-color version, and it's very different from the other 2. So let's see here. The tip, and then I've kind of just basically been rotating between all of the stitch motifs. Spread this out. There we go. So now I have just recently joined the 3rd color. I'm almost, oh no, I'm dropping stitches here. I'm almost out of color 1. I've finished color 2. So most of the rest of it will be this 3rd color here. I should have had my stoppers on my needles, so this didn't happen. Anyway, so it's been a lot of fun to work on this design where there's so many different options. I have 3 different samples for it, and each one's different. And so like in the pattern I have several, I don't remember just how many, several different design recommendations for different versions you can make. And then we're gonna have to deal with that later. and then you can just freeform it. So the idea is that you can just change it according to the mood that you're in. Add colors when you want, change the stitches when you want. You do have to complete the 8-row repeats, but that's basically the only restriction. And then I also have got the yarn for a cowl for the same idea. So it'll be in a mood cowl. It won't be out as soon because I still haven't started knitting it or writing the pattern, but I think it'll be really pretty. So yes, in a Mood Shawl will be released March 5th. This is designed with Hand-Dyed Diva yarn, which is local here in Charlotte area. It's a local yarn dyer. They own a yarn shop and they dye their own yarn. So the shop is Cheers to You, and they have a birthday celebration. So a couple of us designers have patterns that we're releasing that day, and in a Mood Shawl is one of those. I'm hoping to have this cowl knit up in time. It's only like 2 weeks away, 2 weeks from tomorrow. And I have to finish this one and hopefully work up the cowl. And I'm trying to decide, I might just bind off this version early just to show another possibility, even though it's not quite done. So that's all of the in a mood stuff going on. Let's see here. And then I also wanted to show the giveaway stuff because last time we had a knit chit chat, I had forgotten that. I had put it on my notes of things to remember and I'd forgotten. Hi, Woolly Knitster. How are you doing? And what are you working on? I was just sharing all of my in a mood projects. I'll pick up one again to work on it. But this was for 2,000 followers. I hit 2,000 followers last November, and well in advance of that I had reached out to Rachel 6 and 7 Fibers. If you're familiar with my design story, you know that it's Rachel who got me into the online knitting community, introduced me to hand-dyed yarns, and I say that it's her fault that I am now designing. So I had reached out to Rachel and I said, hey, I want to do a giveaway. Could we do emu egg? Because emu egg has been my favorite color from her palette since the beginning, since I first met her. And that was summer of 2017. And I still haven't knit with it, so I thought it'd be fun to give it away. So I've had this yarn sitting around, and then I got these stitch markers from Channy P's Corner. I met Channy at the Southeastern Animal Fiber Fair. Oh yeah, so that same weekend there's the Black Mountain Indie Extravaganza, and she was there at Black Mountain Yarn Shop. Anyway, so she donated a couple of pins. So this is a gumball machine with yarn balls in it, and this is a blender with yarn balls in it. And also from Rachel, I had gotten, when I first talked to her, it was before I had met Channy. So I wanted a pin, and I chose this pin. It says still growing. I just love the sentiment of it. And then I reached out for bags. And this is the reason why it's February now and I'm hosting my 2K giveaway that I reached back at the end of November. Because I took a while to actually finally ask for bags. But this one, I guess this one has her tag on the front. It's from Hikari, Handmade. I don't actually know how to say her first name. But she makes beautiful bags. The bag that I have my In a Mood stuff in is also from her, same size, and I love it. I've been using it for all of my knitting. I actually just brought it on my trip. I used it as my personal item, so I had all my knitting with me. And so yes, it's a large, very large bag. And then she also sent these goodies with it. So a caramel, a chocolate, these cute little scissors, stitch marker, and a tea. And then I'm adding in one of my patterns of choice, but I chose kind of just a feature for it, the Hope Shawl, because I think that would be, I'm not gonna be able to show it very well here because it's so large, but I chose it because I thought it would be so pretty, an emu egg. And also because I designed the Hope Shawl with Rachel's yarn, so it's the same yarn dyer. This yarn is also fingering weight. It's not the same base. This is the alfalfa base. She names all of her bases after crops in Kansas, where she grew up, which is fun. I also had a Instagram live with her last April that's saved in the replays if you want to learn more about Rachel and her yarns. But alfalfa is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So it's very soft and cozy. What I designed this with was her barley base, and it's a single ply. So both are beautiful. So that is the giveaway that's currently open. If you haven't checked it out already, it's open until this Monday, like Monday night, February 21st. And it's just a reel on my Instagram that has all that information. So that is the giveaway. Oh, and I still forgot. So I have other yarn for a second giveaway because it's like 2,000. So I was gonna do 2 giveaways. I haven't opened that giveaway yet because I still don't have the bag for that one, but I'm going to give away more pins from Channy P, and I have 2 skeins of a pink yarn from Marionated Yarns. I used her yarn for my Love Yourself shawl, and so I figured I would feature the Love Yourself shawl with that. And again, folks can choose whichever pattern they want based on, you know, when they win what they want. But yes, I will have that one coming probably next month. So that's been my knitting. What have you been knitting on? Have you been knitting on anything? Let's see here. What else has been going on? Well, I just opened yesterday a free design challenge, so it'll be my first time doing anything like that. So it's catered towards designers, but really it's for anybody who wants to create creative ideas. And so it is 3 days long. It is so it'll be Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week, the 23rd through the 25th, and I'll have a different design prompt each day, and I'll go live twice a day so that different folks in different time zones can hop on, and we will work through the design prompt and talk about creative inspiration and the design process and marketing designs and all of that fun stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. And if you're a designer or you know a designer, the link with all of that information is in my bio, so you can check that out there too. So I always like to do, at the beginning of my lives, a 3-word summary of your week. So looks like we just have one person on here live, but how has your week been? How would you sum it up in 3 words? I kind of wrote my notes right before going live, so I didn't put a lot of thought into it, but I chose full, good, and overwhelming. There's a lot of fun, exciting stuff happening. There's been a lot of calls this week, and Monday and Tuesday I was out of town, so that of course changed business plans. I mean, I had 2 days off, so changed the week a bit, but otherwise it's been pretty good. Can't believe that we're less than 2 weeks away from March. Like all of these things that I was going to get done this month, and suddenly there's not a whole lot of time left to get those things done. Even like things like the design challenge next week. I you know, I had planned to have everything put together last week before I left town, and it didn't happen until yesterday. So anyway, we go with the flow, right? Woolly Knitster said, snowy, wet, and cold, which is perfect for knitting. Yes, that is very true. Usually I don't love snowy, wet, and cold, but it is perfect for knitting. So, we went to Boise, where my brother-in-law and sister-in-law live. We flew out Friday and came back Tuesday. And it wasn't too bad. It was like 30s and 40s while we were there. But now we're back here and it's like 60 degrees. So we're back in warm weather. And I think we had 70s yesterday and supposed to have more 70s in the future. That's Fahrenheit because I'm here in the States. But yes, not necessarily perfect for knitting. A little bit warm, but I do like warm weather. What have you been knitting on, Woolly Knitster? Do you have a project you've been working on in the snowy, wet, and cold weather? So more about the trip that we took. We went to visit our brand new nephew. It's our first time being aunt and uncle. So first baby on either side of the family. And it was a lot of fun. Test knitting some mittens. That's fun. Wait, does it have like a texture or color work, or what does it look like without actually being able to send a picture? Yeah, so we got baby snuggles, which was the best part. Hung out with my in-laws. All of my husband's family was there. Super bulky. Oh, those are fun because they go so fast. Are you a process knitter or a project knitter? Is that whatever the words are? I enjoy knitting, like I enjoy the process, but progress versus project. I definitely like seeing projects done. I like having the finished object and feeling proud about what I've created. So yeah. So we basically just hung out with my in-laws. My father and mother-in-law had gotten an Airbnb that we stayed at with them and my sister-in-law. And then we got baby snuggles in the afternoon and evening. Depends on the project. Yes, that's very true. Some projects are definitely more interesting just to keep knitting. Which is actually part of why I've had this idea for the In the Mood, where you can change according to your mood, because it's like sometimes I'm in a mood just for garter, and sometimes I want something more interesting, and sometimes, so totally get that. Have you had anything else exciting happening besides snow? Yes, they knit up super fast. Yes. Let's see, what else has been happening here? That has been a while. We've had a couple of design circle guests. So a couple weeks ago, Sarah Walworth, who is behind the Tech Editor Hub, talked about fit of garments, which I found really fascinating because I haven't done a lot with garments, but I have several garment ideas now. I'm really excited to start getting into the garment design. And I've had a couple of sketches that I've been toying over for quite a while, and I finally have committed to starting one this year. So I talked with Laura of Camp Fiber Yarns in Canada, where are you, Woolly Knitster? I don't actually even know where you are. I'm in North Carolina. Anyway, talked with Camp Fiber Yarns Laura today, and we've been planning to do a collaboration this year, but we hadn't nailed down exactly what that would look like. So I am going to be designing my first sweater for her. You're in Canada. I wondered about that. Ontario. Okay. I think Laura said she's in Alberta, if I remember correctly. So yeah, basically, excuse me, I'm sorry. Basically, I'm going to be designing my first garment. It might not release until January, just because of timelines with how long it takes to design a sweater and to knit it and to tech edit it and to test knit it. And we're still playing with yarn colors and stuff. But that was very exciting. And then yesterday in the design circle, we had a guest speaker, Ash Wilder, who talked about habits and goal setting, which was a lot of fun. I always find that really interesting. She does a lot of talking about like rest and joy and different things, like, so it's not just hustle culture, it's not just getting work done, it's not just forcing yourself through everything, but really taking care of yourself through it. So I find that really interesting. And Woolly Knitster, what do you have a yarny business? And if not, do you work? What do you do? Since you're the only one hanging out. Yeah, what was I just saying? Oh yeah, so I was talking about Ash's call. Anyway, I just find it really fascinating, all the different advice she has and tips and stuff like that. And then some other calls that have been going on, in case folks have missed them. Last week I featured Cam, who's hand knit by Cam from Canada, here on Instagram Live. So she was the featured designer of February. That was a lot of fun. You're retired all the time to knit now. Yes, lovely. That's wonderful. Do you actually find that you have all the time to knit, or do you find that you're just busy with everything else? I know so many people who are like, when I retire, I'm going to have so much time. And then they retire and they're like, I still don't have time. Yeah, so I had Cam on last week. A couple weeks ago, some folks have been asking about my design story. So I shared all about how I got into designing. And some folks had asked a few different questions about designing. So I shared that. And then next month, I'm looking forward to hosting Emma with Plume and Create here on Instagram Live for a featured designer. But that's mostly what's been going on. Do you have any questions for me or anything you want to chat about? You know, like I can chat about Snickerdoodle Knit stuff and everything, but I don't know if that gets boring. You make time each day, usually in the mornings. That's good. That's lovely. I tend to think of myself more as, and I don't know if this is common or if I'm weird, but I tend to think of myself more as a designer than a knitter. Like when I first started designing, I had been knitting regularly because I had an Etsy shop. And before that, I had done a blanket that I made in like a huge queen size blanket that I had made in just like 2 months. So I'd been doing a lot of knitting, but before that I hadn't. I learned how to knit some when I was younger, and then I hadn't done a lot of knitting, especially through college. So I really started knitting more because of my business. So I haven't been super great about actually making time for knitting for myself. I kind of knit when I have designs and not so great about it otherwise. This knit chit chat was really good for me for a while because I was working on a cardigan that I was knitting for myself. But since I've been working on this project, that hasn't been happening. And can you tell I like blues? That make me happy. Do you have colors that you like to specifically work with? Yeah, so I'm not super great about making time specifically for knitting. But, of course, when I do knit, I do a lot of knitting. I'll like I knit the whole project in a week usually or something like that. I do like to, what do you do while you knit? Do you like to do anything, or do you just sit and knit? Do you enjoy the quiet time? Do you watch TV, or is it while you're hanging out with other people? I tend to, since most of my knitting is work knitting, I tend to listen to business podcasts or YouTube videos or webinars or things like that, so that it's also an educational business experience while I'm knitting. Just sit and knit. That's nice. That's really good. Do you like to knit things that are more complex, or do you like to knit things that are simple? Like, are you a just garter kind of person, or do you like lace and things? Because that definitely makes a difference. Like, I can enjoy just sitting and knitting when I'm doing something more complex. But garter, I am terrible about just sitting and knitting, because I tend to just like lull myself to sleep, I guess, with plain garter. Or stockinette or something like that that's not requiring a lot of attention. Anyway, so I was starting to say, I just got this book in the mail today, and I had forgotten that it was coming. So, I don't know if you know Gigi. Gigi made it. I really enjoy following her, but her daughter, Shelby, has an Instagram account called Shelby and the Bookstore. It used to be Shelby and the Book Club. And she's been hosting authors on her Instagram account live. And so in January, she hosted Shelly, who is Shelly behind Knit Stars, and she wrote this book called Mood the Needle. And on the Instagram Live, she shared that she was giving away books to folks who wanted the book. So I got the book for free, and I totally forgot it was coming. I just got it today. So I'm excited to dive into it a little bit. It's a lot about her journey as an entrepreneur. She was like in the cover here, it says that she and her husband had an advertising firm that was really successful, and she left that to open the local yarn store, and then of course everything became bigger from that. If you're not familiar with Knit Stars, they have host Knit Stars, so folks like now I'm gonna blank on all the names, but Gigi and I have somebody specifically in mind that I'm picturing, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, just different folks who are really good at what they do, feature them and have their videos and stuff online. And now they have their flagship store in the Midwest, somewhere here in the States. Anyway, so she's done a lot of really neat things, and so I'm kind of interested to read it. I watched the live and found it really fascinating, just like listening to her entrepreneurial journey and how one thing led to another. And I could relate to that, because I was just talking with somebody else yesterday, like never would have guessed now that I would be a knitting pattern designer. And it just is like one thing leads to another, and eventually you are where you are. And so I find that fascinating. Yeah, and I'll have to let you know what I think of it too. Reading is something that I enjoy, and I have a hard time making time for. Does that seem like a theme at all? So yeah, I'll have to see. It's let's see here, how many pages is it? 240 pages, but the text is fairly large, and there's pictures and things, so it seems like it'll be a pretty quick read if I actually just make time for it. Been knitting for a while and like to knit different things. Yes. Do you have a certain kind of thing you like to knit, specifically as far as like accessories, like hats or scarves or mittens or shawls or sweaters, or do you like to do a mix of things? And also, do you knit for yourself primarily, or do you knit for others? I'm definitely a selfish knitter. I have a hard time making stuff for people if I don't know that they're actually really going to love it. So if folks ask for something, I'm more likely to make it than just out of an act of kindness. But yes. I think that's most of my notes here, but happy to keep knitting and chatting. How did you get into, you knit for others? That's nice. How did you get into knitting? Like, who taught you, or did you teach yourself? I learned from a few different people when I was younger, but then when I finally got serious about it, I watched YouTube videos and things like that. And then just 2 years ago, I found out that my grandma actually used to knit when she was like my age and younger, and made sweaters and all sorts of things, and I had no idea. You taught yourself. Neat. I find it interesting. It seems like there are so many folks who were taught by their grandmother or their mother, and it's something that's just been passed down between generations. My mom has never been a knitter. She sewed, so she did teach me how to sew, and I would sew like bags and skirts and things like that growing up. So now you teach your daughter and your granddaughters. I love that. That's sweet. Do they enjoy it? Do they do a lot of it? My brother is 11 years younger than me, so he's a freshman in high school this year. But a few years back, I got him to be sort of interested in knitting, so that I taught him a little bit. I can't remember what he was making, a scarf or something, but kind of went to the wayside. So I don't have anybody in my family who really knits, but maybe someday. I think it's interesting how much there is to our knitting community beyond what folks just see from the outside. Like, the stereotypes of what knitting is versus what is actually here in the community, and how much there is with all of the yarn options, the yarn colors, the yarn bases, the designs, the designers, and then connecting with knitters. It's just really interesting to me what a thing is. It is once you get into it. And I think that's probably true for, anything that, well, really anything. I was going to say a hobby, but everything in general. We have ideas of what it looks like from the outside, but it's not until you really get into it that you realize that there's a lot more to it. Your daughter, yes, and granddaughters are still in the early stages, but that's fun. How old are your granddaughters, if you don't mind sharing? I find it really cute, different kids that learn how to knit really early on. Just, have an interest for it and pick it up earlier. I'm just trying to pick up and fix what I messed up when I dropped my stitches here on the drop stitches part when I was trying to show that in a Mood Shawl earlier, and then I can actually start knitting some. Do you have a favorite yarn dart? The knitting community is great. It's so nice we can all connect. Yeah, it's really interesting, and I feel like even sometimes it can be overwhelming. Like, there's so many people here. You really kind of have to figure out your little place where you want to hang out and belong, or at least I find that, because there are so many places, so many people you could meet and hang out with and just be so busy with all of it. But yes, 10, 10, and 7. Those are fun ages and really great for knitting. Let's see how old. My brother was around that age when, well, okay, so my brother would have been 7 when I left home. And then he would have been closer to like 10 when I got married. But yeah, that's fun. They're like old enough that they have a bit more maturity and interested in things, but they're still younger. Do they live close to you? Or do they live in another province or even in the States or somewhere? I grew up really, physically distance-wise, really close to my grandparents. My dad's family, very close. That's nice. My dad's family was all in the same town. He and his 2 brothers and their families and his parents, we all lived in the same town. So we got together for all of the events and holidays and birthdays and everything you can imagine. And then my grandma was 90 miles out of town, but we saw her fairly regularly. So yeah, I know my grandparents. I feel like I know my grandparents really well. My one grandfather passed away when I was really little, so I never knew him. And then my other grandmother passed away a few years back, but I should be able to see them both my living grandparents next month, so that'll be good. My husband, he grew up farther away from all of his family, so like they lived in Oregon and his grandparents were in Montana and Wyoming, and then all of his cousins were like in Montana and Connecticut and Arizona, so he didn't grow up close to his family at all. And it's really interesting to see now, like the different dynamics of the families because of that, like where a lot more, or at least, when I lived at home, a lot more in each other's business, but also a lot closer. So what is the yarn that you're working with right now? Welcome, CS Bracy. We're just knitting and chatting here. If you want to share what you're knitting on now or have been knitting on, feel free. Let's see here. I guess the other topic that I had to talk about, which I didn't have a whole lot of, content, but I was just thinking about the ebbs and flows of life, like how things go up and down, and there are better days and not as good days, and just been talking to different people about that and how like some days you just have tons of energy and some days you don't, and just finding it really interesting. Like I like to think a lot about different seasons of life that are ups and downs, but even more specifically like days that are like even throughout the day. Just finding it really, really fascinating. Like we are not static people. We change, and life around us changes, and our emotions change, and through it all we can we we can find happiness in each part of it, and we can find things to be grateful in each part of it, and just kind of take life as it comes. And of course we can have different things that help us ground us throughout all of those experiences, like our knitting and our community, connection with other people. Like this is really fun for me, just connecting with folks every week to chat, and I know that I can come here regardless of how the week has been, or regardless of how anybody else's week has been. So that's a lot of fun. I definitely enjoy it, and I definitely enjoy folks joining me live. So thank you for being here. Let's see here. I'm trying to think of other topics. I'm not a very good conversationalist, am I? Let's see here. Now I've got an issue with my knitting. That is very true. Take it all as it comes and always find joy in what makes you happy. Yes. And it's like really interesting, I think, to explore those things that bring us joy and make us happy, like just different things that we can do regardless of the situation around us that can bring joy and happiness. Whether that's something like getting outside and enjoying the fresh air, or like I said, knitting, different things like that just help us. Looks like we keep having folks pop in and pop back out, but I am not sure what I did here. So the mittens that you're working on right now, are they a gift for somebody? The test knit? Usually fixing my knitting isn't the best idea when I'm live, but maybe we'll look at this. Maybe not too. Oh goodness, this is funny. Have you ever done any design work? Usually we use our stock for market. Oh, okay. So do you do a lot of knitting and selling at markets? Because that's neat. I did some craft fairs. So like when I had my Etsy shop, I did knitting for craft fairs and stuff. And I remember, you might be familiar with Cozy Up Knits. Actually, they might be right in your area. I don't remember what part of Canada they're in. I remember them talking about, I used to watch their podcast, and I remember them talking about making stuff for markets, and that's actually how they got into designing, because they were making new designs and stuff for the markets, it seems like, and so then they used some of their designs for when they actually were publishing patterns. I actually used a few of them for my Etsy shop. They had a cable hat pattern and a fringe cowl pattern that I used that I really liked. But so was last year the first year that you did the markets? I also just realized that if I'm making you talk to me this whole time, you're having to use your fingers and not able to knit. So this isn't really fair, is it? That's funny. And now here I have Tangled Mess with the yarn. That's one thing not as fun about using multiple colors, especially when I'm designing. I don't want to cut off all of the ends unless I go back, in case I decide to go back and change my mind about something. So then I just have all these ends. Welcome. We have a few new folks hopping on. We have about 13 minutes left on the weekly knit chit chat. So we've just been chatting and knitting. If you want to share what you've been knitting on, feel free to share in the comments here. And the other thing you can share is how your week's been. You can share, I like to say, 3 words that describe the week. So, like for me, the week was full, good, and overwhelming. But you can share what you're knitting on. I talked about this at the very beginning, but I am working on my Mood Shawl. This is a design that's currently in test knitting, and it has several different textures that you kind of get to just choose when you knit what. And so I have 3 colors, and I have a couple other versions as well. But what have you been knitting on? How's your week been? What have you been up to? Working on the last sleeve of your Felix Pullover. That's exciting. Okay, I'm trying to remember which is the Felix. Who designed the Felix? It's not a Tin Can Knits pattern. I don't remember what Felix looks like. And what color are you using? Well, that is okay. We need a break. Sometime. Enjoy your weekend and best of luck on your pattern design. Shawl is beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. It's been fun to have someone to chat with. Savory knitting. What is it? I wish I had my computer here. I can't pull it up on my phone because I'm live on my phone. What does it look like? Like, what's the texture, or I can't even picture what it is, but I feel like I should know what it is. All right, see ya. And then is it the Felix Pullover? Is it did you do it top down? Probably. I guess not necessarily. I think I've only done top down sweaters, but I know some folks really like. It's a blue heather speckle by Peace Fleece. That sounds really pretty. Raglan pullover with lace eyelet increases. Okay, I think I can picture it now. That sounds really fun. And like really practical. Easy to wear with a lot of different things, and especially with a blue heather speckle. Do you have a photo on your Instagram if I were to go check it out when we're done chatting? I'm afraid this replay here is not going to be nearly as exciting as some, because I've been doing a lot of chatting just back and forth with the comments and then waiting for responses. So I apologize if you're watching the replay. I'm impressed if you've made it this far. Super easy to knit, really wearable. I have a photo of the top section right after I split for the sleeves. All right, I'll have to go check it out later. And do you like to knit a lot of garments, or do you knit a variety? The woolly knitster that I've been chatting with in the comments I shouldn't assume pronouns. They had assumed, or they had shared that they like to knit a variety of things, and a lot of what they knit is gifts. I have done probably primarily shawls, but I'm really wanting to get into more garment knitting and designing. And then my other question for you, I don't know if you heard this when you first got on or not. I always like to ask how your week has been, and if you were to summarize it in 3 words, how would you describe it? I had said my words were full, good, and overwhelming. I was with my in-laws at the beginning of the week, came home Tuesday night, and have been working and have a lot of exciting projects going on, but also a lot of deadlines coming up. So you knit a variety of garments. Not many socks. I don't love sock knitting, but I will do it on occasion. I like, if I'm doing socks, I haven't done a lot of socks to start with, but I like shorty socks in DK with texture, so that it's not just plain knitting round and round, but there's some interest going on, and then they're not so long that you have to knit forever. I'm a very loose knitter, so when I knit socks, I have to use 000 needles, like the smallest needles you can buy. So yeah. And then you had said shawls are your favorite. Yeah, shawls are, I don't know, they're just so easy for me. Like, it's just maybe the most meditative thing to knit. Although I do really like knitting in the round. And your words are exhausting, stressful, and glad it's almost over. I understand how that goes. I've had some calls this week that have, made it not as exhausting and stressful. But last week was a rougher one for me. It just seemed like everything was going wrong. Do you work, or what do you do for work? Was there anything specific that was exhausting and stressful? And have you had much knitting time? Also, I'll say thank you for joining me live. It's funny, so I've been doing these, I think you're new around here from the giveaway, but I've been doing these knit chit chats weekly, but last week I was out of town, and the week before that I wasn't feeling well, so it's been 3 weeks, and before I had a lot more folks joining me live than I do this time, so it's been interesting. But I do really love connecting with folks. I wish that there was a way here that I could see you and we could actually talk back and forth. But I do really like the Instagram format. Like, it just makes it easy to connect with folks here and come and go. I've been a caregiver to a terminally ill friend. It's my privilege and honor, but it takes skill. Oh yes, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. I don't know if I can really say anything, but I just know different folks that I have known, that I've even just tried to take care of for a few weeks closer to the end of their life and stuff. It's like, it's really rewarding, and I love taking care of people and stuff, but it's exhausting. So I hope you're taking time for yourself as well. You're finding moments of rest and joy and knitting, of course. How long have you been a caregiver for them? Just found my page. Love my projects. Thanks so much. That means a lot. I really enjoy designing. It's hard to believe I'm finishing up my 3rd year of designing now, since July. And that's a long time. That's, to be taking care of somebody. Do you have a background in like nursing or anything like that? I admire nurses and caregivers. It just, the physical demands and the emotional demands, and there's a lot. So I hope that you're kind to yourself. Welcome to the other person that just joined a little bit ago. This is the weekly knit chit chat where I just hang out and knit and chat. If you want to share what you're working on, what you're knitting or have been knitting recently, feel free. Or feel free to share how your week's been. I am working on another in a Mood Shawl. So I'm wearing one right now. This is a worsted weight version. And it's a design where you get to kind of just change what you make and when it goes and all of that kind of stuff. And so this version that I'm working on right now is totally different. I'm using 3 colors of DK weight, and of course I am in the very middle of the row. So I'll pull it up in just a second to show you. But you're testing a crochet scarf. That's fun. I don't know. I don't do a lot of crochet. I have done some coasters and things, but I don't have a whole lot of experience with crochet. Mostly just a knitter. Thank you, Barbara. Feel free to share. Of course, now that we're coming up on the hour, we have some folks to joining. But I'm happy to stay a few minutes later if you want to talk about what you've been knitting and how your week's been. I'll show you this shawl here in just a second. We were talking about, exhausting, overwhelming weeks, and we were talking about I was gone out of town for the first few days this week, so my week didn't really start till Wednesday. So I guess I can't complain too much about my week, but have lots of exciting things coming up. Oh, another exciting thing that I haven't talked about at all today or at all on these knit chit chats, is that in the design circle, we're working on a collaboration where we're going to be, fingers crossed, designing books together. So I've been working on all of the overall planning, all of that stuff to hopefully bring everything together. But here is this version, so you can tell it's looking a bit different than this one. Let's see here. There we go. I'll try not to drop stitches again, but it's going to be a nice big shawl. This is DK weight. And now I am on the 3rd color. Got scared I dropped stitches again. Here, and so I think I'm going to do another row of drop stitches and then some of this creamy base, and then let's see what's next. I think the garter rib, this stuff, then some garter, and then finish it with the lace. Maybe we'll see. I actually might not have enough yarn for all that. We'll see. This is what I have left. I also love DK weight, and I love these colors. DK weight is my favorite. I am definitely, like, any new collaborations I'm accepting need to be DK weight. I have a couple of shawls that I've committed to that need to get done that are fingering weight. But after that, well, and the cardigan that I've been knitting for myself is fingering weight. But love, love, love DK weight. And that sweater that I was talking about earlier, it is going to be DK weight. I'm going to be designing a sweater. So super excited about that. And those colors should be a lot of fun too. We're playing with colors. Laura with Camp Fiber Yarns and we're going to be maybe cooking up a few different things. So it'll be fun. Yeah. So if nobody wants to share what they're working on, I guess I might hop off since I've been here for an hour. The replay will be up, both here on Instagram and on YouTube. But as always, thanks so much for joining me. This is a lot of fun. So I do this weekly. It's just weekly knit chit chat. Fridays at 4 p.m. Eastern. I might think about changing the time in the future just because it might not be a great time for folks. Feel free to share here, either in the comments or in the replay comments if you want a different time. Because it seems like a lot of folks started showing up about 5 my time. It's 5:03 right now. So if that works better for folks, let me know. But I enjoy hanging out and chatting and connecting and hearing about what you're knitting and what's going on. The idea is that this is just a chat, as if we were sitting on the couch next to each other in the living room knitting. So thanks for joining me and happy knitting over the weekend. Thanks, Barbara. I hope you have a great weekend too. And don't forget, if you haven't joined the giveaway yet with the yarn bag and the yarns and all of the things, this beautiful emu egg that is on my profile grid, my feed here on Instagram, just a few posts back, and that closes Monday night. So I will chat with you later. But I need to remember, I always like to leave you with, remember you're on your own journey, and so I want you to enjoy it. And sending you big warm hugs and wishing you the best weekend ahead. So I'll talk to you later.